This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLipub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Brooke, do it again.
All right.
Episode 4, Mobilizing the Zettelkasten, by choice or by chance.
So I'm Victoria. I'm hosting today's episode of the Zettelcast, and I've gone over to our shared list of indexed questions that Julianne put together, and I've chosen, as I jokingly say, something that I think I probably have gone the deepest down this hole of the question. So we'll see what everybody comes up with. But today's Zettelcast question is, how do you travel or work on the go and still maintain your Zettelkasten structure, your note cards, all of the things that you need as if you were sitting at your desk when you have to be away from your desk? So do you want me to go first, or should we do the round robin and just go in whatever order? Doesn't matter to me.
I think since you're going to be the queen of all of this, you should probably be last.
I
No
think
one
so
will
too.
want to follow you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So my system evolved very early on when I very first started my little baby Zettelkasten, which began, where's my lid? Oh, I thought I said it right nearby, but it must be over there. It was just the lid to a note box because that was all I had. It became apparent to me very quickly that I was going to need a way that I could take all this stuff with me, because at that time I was planning a long writing retreat. I was going to be gone for 10 days. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? So my first thought was, I will just use book rings. So this is just a 1-inch book ring. It's got a roll of washi tape on it as well. And I hole punched my 3x5 cards in the upper left-hand corner. And that was what I used to keep them all together. You'll notice they're color coded because at this point in time, I was just starting work on my novels. So my main male character was blue, female was pink, my bad guys are orange, and so forth. So I just put enough cards in. There's about 10 to 20 per color. And that's where I started. After that, I learned pretty quickly, because my Zettelkasten was built in service to my novel, that I needed a way that I could slot in different ideas for either plot points, character development, what have you. Now, I had a conversation early on with Kathleen where she said, and this horrified me when she said it, your Zettelkasten should work so that if you drop it and your cards go everywhere on the floor, you can put it all back together. I thought I was going to throw up at the thought of that. So I thought, okay, that is not happening, not on my watch. So then I went to 4x6 cards, and I took 4 1-inch disc rings from a disc binder system, and I just used my mushroom punch. I punched 4 holes, and I created what I like to call the plot sandwich. So this way I could go to, say, Act 2, which has a tab, or I could go to Chapter 3, which has a tab, and I could just take a note card that I was working on, slot it in there, and then I had everything together. And normally I would either bulldog clip it or whatever. So that's the de facto binding system that I use to keep all of those cards in order. The satellite to that are these little guys. I used to have one of these in my bag for every character when I was first writing the book. So this bulldog clip is red. It has a red stripe that tells you this is the present, and the pink tells you this is the past. So I took 3x5 cards, I cut them in half, and I just clipped them together using my binder, knowing that one color represented that character's present and the other color represented their past. So again, if I was going to go somewhere and maybe work on my main female character, I would just take this and throw it in my bag, and then I could just deal out my cards and look at things and figure things out and then clip them all back together. So I have one of these for every character that's a major character. I also have them for scenes, just whatever application you need, just clip some cards together and call it good. Then when I really got deep into my story and I started working on other writing projects, I wanted to have something that I could use to write on, like if we're driving. Like sometimes we're driving 13 or 15 hours and it's not practical to even have all of these kind of rolling around in the truck. So I got myself a mini clipboard. So with this, I can clip my cards, my 4x6 cards into it. I can clip my 4-colored pen, which is over here. Oh, it's over there somewhere. I just clip my 4-colored pen to a big pack of note cards, and then I have a moving desk that I can use wherever I am. I've always got a writing surface. And then almost finally, but not quite, some of you might have seen this in some of my earlier videos. I was often asked, how do you use your Zettelkasten and your primary resources when they're not books or not digital? Like, for example, if you've printed out an academic paper or something, which I did a lot of early on, I always use these plastic pocket folders. It's a heavy plastic folder. And the cool thing is, I discovered they had pre-cut, stop it, note card, pre-cut slots. So this is actually for an old school big format floppy disk or a little 3-inch mini floppy disk, right? You with me? Well, a 4x6 card and a 3x5 card fit perfectly in those little floppy disk slots. So I would pack whatever primary resource material I was working with into the folder, and then in the slots, I would just put in the cards that I was going to use so that everything was together for whatever that piece was, and then I didn't have to go looking for where are the cards, where's the research. It all goes in the folder together. Finally, I bought this. This I had to create as we were getting ready to leave on the trip that we just returned from. Because I'm writing the Zettelkasten for Fiction Writers book, I needed to be able to take that entire book section of my Zettelkasten with me. So clearly that was not going to fit in a bulldog clip. So what I did was I got numbered tabs 1 through 31. So those are just for the month. We had to be a month of 31 days. But for me, these represent chapter numbers. I went ahead and I bought sets of unmarked tabs. I got 100 of them so that I could separate out things I was working on and be able to tab right to them. And then I just literally went through and I took all of the cards that I'm using to write the book, filed them under their applicable chapters, and then put in my little, I call them roving tabs or placeholders, so that I could go right to the things that I needed to be able to work on and pull those cards and work on them. So that represents a pretty thorough workflow for how I managed to take everything with me and have it all contained, safe. This mobile thing zip shut. So I would literally open it, take out what I wanted and zip it shut. Because I'm like, if this falls on the floor, it's going to be worse than World War III because I will cry for days. So yeah, I would just take out what I needed and zip it shut so everything was safe. So that represents, I think, almost my entire arsenal. The only thing that I didn't show you is this little book. This is a Happy Planner Mini. So it's literally just a little notebook. But what I learned pretty early on was my 4x6 cards fit perfectly in there. So sometimes if I just want to take a notebook, I just use hole punched 4x6 cards and put them in here, and then I just take that one little book with me. So I don't use that a lot, but if I know I'm going to go and draft from cards, that's usually the easiest way because I can just flip my cards as if they're a book, and that works for me for sorting. So there you go.
Well, I'll volunteer to go next so you can have the other bookend. So my trips are not 10-day writing trips at all. My trips are more like I'm going to be stuck somewhere for an hour, or I've got just little spaces of time that happen, sometimes rather unexpectedly. And what I do, I'm ready for quick action when I need to run out the door and not leave myself with nothing to do when I'm stuck somewhere. And I hate just sitting for an hour and wondering what I've got on my phone to look at. So my handy solution is one little bag, and it hangs on a doorknob so that it's ready to go. And it's got all of the basics that always stay inside. So I will show you what goes in my bag. First of all, something that you just saw with Victoria's, a mini clipboard. Holds a 4x6 card perfectly. Next, I'll share with you a pack of blank 4x6 cards. Got to have some of those handy. Then the next thing that's in my central to my box, really only thing that always lives there, is my pen box. I love multiple colors of pens, so they all live in my little pen case, and even correction tape. So that makes up what is always ready. And I have this is not, it's unique to this bag, and it never leaves a bag. So I'm always ready with those items. Then when it's time to go, all I need to do is grab a book, grab something fast, and and a bib card, and I'm ready to read. Or if it's journaling time, I've got a to-go system for my yellow legal pad. It has its own folder, surprisingly like Victoria's, with the little slots even. And my pad goes in one of the pockets, and it's protected. Pages won't fall out and they won't get rumpled. That slips right into my case, as does whatever book I want to take with me. And in 2 minutes flat, I'm ready to go out the door. So that's my travel system.
Okay, so now I have to add a Zettelkasten bug out bag, because that is genius. All right.
Well, I am. You're going to be very underwhelmed by my offerings here, because my definition of mobility is I move from this room to some other room in the house.
Nice.
So, not to denigrate, being able to just take the book with the bib card, that is perfectly mobile for a lot. You can spend a lot of time with the book doing the thing. So that's a lot of what I do if I am going to, let's say, a library or some, just to have a change of scene. I've got a bag with a pen and some cards that lives in my backpack. I've got this little cutie that lives in my handbag, my daily handbag, so that if I, get a brainwave, I've got something to write down. And then, Marie Kondo taught me, maybe you, to save boxes. So I have a lot of little boxes that electronics and stuff came in, and they're nice and stable and perfect. So this is kind of my favorite one, because you can have a lot of work just sit in this one. And so the thing that I will do with this typically is indexing. I'll take the cards that I have created recently, my whole index, which is not that big, and I'll just take this down to the family room where we're watching TV, and I just do that task in this box. And then the other thing that I do, which is totally borrowed from Victoria, I don't have Happy Planner, but I've got Circa. And I didn't even remember that maybe more than 20 years ago, we bought the fabulous hole puncher for the Circa, which is really great, because anything becomes a candidate to put in there. And so, I've got well, the thing that I just added recently, let me see if I can find that, is my own divider pages that I made from cardstock, and my own little janky dividers there that I just attach. And what we're looking at right here is a divider page that's got some manuscript paper on it, because everything after it is manuscript paper. So when I have a brainwave musically, I can write it down there. So this kind of system is really cool for keeping an ongoing work together. And that's all. I haven't been on a trip since 2021. I almost said 1921, Kathleen. So
My favorite.
Right. That's hilarious.
Well, that brings it back down to me then. I'm also on the minimalist side. I carry it's called I don't actually remember what it's called, but it's a little 3x5 leather
Oh.
case from LiLLinger. This was a big splurge for me. I don't typically buy from them. They're very expensive, but it's very nice.
Yeah.
And it fits in most of my shirt pockets. Some of them don't have pockets, some of them are too small, but for the most part, I can fit this folder, this little wallet in the shirt pocket. And it's got a little writing surface that you can just stick a card in the flaps there to write on. So I usually keep, I've got some cards that I found that are 3x5s, but they've got lines vertical, so you hold it vertically rather than the typical horizontal. So I use that for just jotting down ideas on the go, to-do lists, to things to be added. But I also have a selection of other cards in here to choose from if I want to write something bigger. I also keep my bib cards for ebooks. If I'm reading an ebook and I have bib cards, you can't stick it inside the pages, obviously, with an ebook. So I try to keep those in this wallet so that if I'm out and about and I'm going to read some of that ebook, then I can still take notes. So this is sort of my, I try to always carry it. It gets a little bit more tricky if I'm wearing a shirt that it won't fit in, but I try to bring it along anyway. And then, just down here, like Kathleen, I have the folders with the legal pads that are numbered, and I take these with me if I'm going someplace specifically to write. Like, I go to coffee shops to write sometimes. I go to the library to write sometimes. It's just good to get away from the usual places so that it's easier to focus for writing for a while. So I bring my folder with my writing, and I usually have a binder clip with a bunch of cards, blank cards, for taking notes if I'm reading. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple system. I try not to carry too much with me. Like if I can't fit it in a pocket, I generally don't take it.
That's good.
I have a backpack or a bag for the bigger things if I'm going on a specific project, but yeah.
Yeah. That that thing, it's called a pocket briefcase. I lusted
Yes.
after those for years. Oh, I wanted
Yes,
one
that's
so
what it's
bad.
called.
Yeah, so cool. I love it.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing. They're pricey, but it is very nice. It's very well made. It should last a lifetime. So
Well, I don't know if you remember their Stanley. I have their Stanley briefcase, and I also have the Stanley backpack, which is what I take when we go hunting, because it's like a saddle, literally it's a saddlebag. But my Stanley briefcase comes out every September 1st, and I carry it until November 1st, and then it has to go back away because it's getting pretty beat up. I think I've had it probably 25 years or a little longer. So yeah, it's getting pretty beat up, but I love LiLLinger. You'll buy it once and have it your whole life. But I never did get my pocket briefcase.
Why only that's you're just rationing your use of it?
Yes, and for me, it's really heavy leather. I mean, it's super well made, like really good leather. And so for me, I'm not going to carry it in the winter when it's like wet and sloppy and nasty. So it's my autumn bag. At least that's what I tell myself. So And I look forward to it. I look forward to when I get to pull out Stanley and clean him up, and then the backpack gets to go hunting. So yeah, because the entire inner lining has ripped out. I don't care. I just love it. It's my bag. Well, okay.
Okay.
The only thing I would add is when I got my Kindle Scribe, I bought the magnetic case so it has a flap that goes over it that you fold back. I'd show you, but it's in the other room. The way the Kindle attaches to it, it's got 4 little baby feet and it clips magnetically into the case. But I have discovered I can tuck up to 8 blank note cards between the Kindle and the case. So that's my cheat, is if I'm going to go and work digitally, like, on an ebook, I just put those cards and have them tucked in behind the pad in the case. So that was my workaround, because I had that problem too. If I'm just going to work digitally, I don't want to take all this stuff with me. I just want to take that. So that was nice to discover that the cards would fit behind it. Okay, so do we want a wild card challenge?
Yes.
All right, so I call this the wildfire challenge. Number 1, because we were just in Wyoming fleeing wildfires, so it's been on my brain. But number 2, if you remember from from his email, and I can't tell you which one it was, it's been about a month ago, he made reference to the fact that his neighborhood was being evacuated and his wife called him at work and we're like, we got to bug out. And I found it very interesting that he made the choice that he would not take his Zettelkasten with him, because in his mind, it had served its purpose of utility and he would just start over. Well, that got me thinking, I don't think I could leave Wilma behind. And so my question is, if you are in a total bug out situation where you have to grab what you need and leave, I'll give you maybe a day to pack and leave. It's not critical dire, but you got to go. Are you going to take your Zettelkasten, or are you going to take important pieces of it? What pieces would they be and why? So my answer is, because mine is so small and it lives, I don't know if I can show you if you recall, it lives right there in that box next to the lamp, that it holds 3 side-by-side sets of cards that are each 12 inches deep. So my rationale is I could easily grab that and throw like my laptop and my removable keyboard and my mouse, like my Zettelkasten would become the box that I pack my office in, and that would be my allowance for office stuff. I really thought this through. But that's what I figured. I would take the whole thing and I would use the container as a way to pack the other things that I would absolutely want to save, including, like, I have a few pictures of my kids on the bookcase that are kind of precious to me, so I'd probably throw those in as well. So I would take Wilma, but she would be a pack mule, true to her nature, and other things would have to go in there with her. So that's my answer.
Okay, I guess it's my turn then. That very newsletter, that letter struck me as well, and I thought, well, I would definitely have to take my Zettelkasten, because unlike Scott, my Zettelkasten has grown through the years, and I do not just create cards for the purpose of writing some one thing and then move on to the next one thing. My cards all integrate, and they mean a lot to me. However, the vaults cases, which I love very much, are heavy. So if I had that day to pack, I would get out, which I still have under my desk, a stack of 6 plastic shoeboxes with lids. I would put my Zettelkasten into the very, very lightweight plastic shoeboxes with lids, put them on the back seat of the car, and take my Zettelkasten that way. The next thing that would go would be family photographs, but I'm chiding myself because I've been telling myself I need to scan those in so that the whole family can have things that where maybe I'm the only one who has a particular print. And then I wouldn't have to run and grab those. So I would take my laptop because it's handy and it's expensive and I don't have to buy it again. But But otherwise, if it was my old laptop that I just got rid of, heck, I'll use the space for something else. And have an excuse to get a new one. But we actually did twice have the situation. Very interestingly, after we left San Diego, where we used to live, the house that we had lived in was burned to the ground in a wildfire in San Diego. And then when we first moved to Oregon, we lived out on the McKenzie River and in the little town of Vida. And we had like 3.5 acres on the river. And after we wintered there a few times, we bought a house in town, more civilized. Just decided we weren't really quite that country folk. And a wildfire blew through Blue River and Vida. Fortunately, that house did not burn down, but a couple of the outbuildings on the property did, and many of the houses on that street burned down. So that just really rung true to me, that you've got to be careful of what would you grab if the time was that short. And if we had to just up and go, I would get a sturdy trash bag. I would trust that rule of thumb that you started out with, Victoria, and I would upend my boxes into a sturdy trash bag, throw them in the back seat of the car, and I'd be out of there in less than 10 minutes. And I would trust my numbering system that I could.
That's right. That is sheer faith.
That's my take.
Very good.
Well, as it is, my Zettelkasten is fairly modest. I have it all in 2 boxes. These are microfiche boxes that I got from a library supply place. When the vaults thing was suddenly not available from Amazon for a tiny little bit. I said, well, okay. So I think, let's say, so of course I could take that, but if I really needed to just take much less, I think what I would take, trusting that I could recreate the thoughts, are the index, and then something that I don't think any of the rest of you do, but it is very meaningful to me. And that is a time log of what I've been adding to my Zettelkasten. So I have cards like this. And so I've got the date and what are the keywords in the index and the taglines that I added that day.
Wow.
And I just started doing this right from the get-go because there is something about my own memory. I don't think I'm particularly unusual, but you can say, I think it was in September, kind of in the early part of the week. I can just kind of reconstruct some memories from my perception of when something happened. And so I would be counting on the combination of the keywords, and really I wouldn't even need the index having the keywords in here as well, because this is in fact kind of a duplicate index. The keywords, the taglines, the date, it's enough.
Huh.
So because I use the front and backs of these, I've got less than 10.
Wow.
That also,
I love that.
that card also serves as, one of the out cards when I'm in the middle of filing stuff. I'll just turn that thing to the side.
Cool. I love that. It's almost like a diary of your work. Well, it is. I love that idea. That's good.
It too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I try to remember to date all of my cards as I make them, just so that I know when I come back to them when it was entered. But yeah, having that diary, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, like the rest of you, I would not leave my Zettelkasten behind if I could manage it. Right now, it's all in one box, which is not all that huge. It's a vintage file drawer for index cards. And that it's pulled out. It's got a case that it can go into as well, but it's gonna outgrow that pretty soon. I've got everything in all that one box right now, the indexes and the bib cards and everything. But even if it were bigger, I would probably do like Kathleen and dump it all if I had to, and trust, because I trust my numbering system. I've been
Yeah.
from the beginning. I've been following that rule of if you dump it out, you should be able to put it back. Um, so yeah, one way or another, if it was all possible, I would save the Zettelkasten.
So then you let's say, you're trundling to your escape destination, and you get abducted by aliens right out of the car, and your stuff arrives, and somebody opens this bag and is like, why, what is this? And then it becomes like an archaeologist project to put this thing back together and figure out what it is. There's a book in there.
There's a
Yeah,
that's
I
a
was just gonna
chapter
say
in
that sounds
Roanoke.
like a
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. How cool would that be? Yeah, totally. I love it.
I have visions of when I'm gone, somebody going through it and saying, "Oh, these are nice boxes," and pulling up a trash can and going, "Foomp, foomp, foomp." It's like,
No,
"Ooh,
no,
I
no,
could
no.
use these boxes."
We would never let that happen. That will go into the Lily Pub Founders Archive, and you will have to make a proper appointment and be sponsored to view Zeke. Trust me, it'll never happen that way.
Okay, I'm going to write that into the my will.
That's right. Write it down. You can hold us accountable. We've all got your back. Zeke will be canonized. Don't worry about it. Because as Julianne said, we would all like 10 minutes alone with Zeke.
You wouldn't tell any of my secrets, would you? You wouldn't
It's
promise.
not really about that. It's just there's something about sitting down with somebody else's Zettelkasten, because beginners are worried about doing it right. But once people have used it for as long as you have, right is right for Kathleen.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to find when we have 10 minutes alone with Zeke is Kathleen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll see history there too. Some of my cards have dates, but not all of them. I wish I had dated them all, but I can actually tell from the shape and the size of the cards what they date back to. So that really helps. So you'll also see that there are different solutions for different areas of the Zettelkasten. Like my numbering system for fiction writing fit right in with Victoria's. It's got category cards and dump sections, but my general knowledge section is very different, and they don't live in the same drawers, and that's not a problem.
Those are the pieces I find cool is it allows you to have like an inside peek into how somebody's mind works, because we're each going to associate things in a very different way. And that's the part that I find the most fascinating is what words or what things does one of us need to recall something and make connections that to another one of us would be total gibberish. I just find that part fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I made this mistake as well at the very beginning. Not looking at it in that way, but instead just looking at it as a place to put things and have order.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very natural to want to pick up, well, somebody else has thought about how to order these things, the Dewey Decimal System and all of that stuff. But it didn't take very long before I realized, well, I'm not making a library. And if you actually go to a library, the person who can help make sense of everything that's in the library is the librarian.
Yeah.
And so
it's a
this is
science.
more like trying to put the personality of the librarian into the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I all of a sudden see Doctor Who running around? Is it just me? The Zettelkasten is a TARDIS. I will maintain that to my grave.
You're going to pull out a card that says, "Hello, sweetie."
That's right.
Well, it
That's
is
awesome.
strange, the cards that you will pull out. You will pull out cards that are written in your own handwriting, so you know you wrote them, but you can't imagine you ever said that. And it'll be like, that was a prediction. And
Yeah.
that was a prediction for now. And that came true. I don't remember making that prediction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to hear
That's
more about
funny.
one of those.
Yeah.
Well, it was just Lily Pub.
Mm.
The exist that Lily Pub would be, that, you know, that we would be a community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. That is crazy to see for sure.
Well, that's one of the great things that Scott Shepherd has bequeathed all of us, is that just that notion of you don't actually need to know who your community is. You just put your stuff out there in a way that it can be found, and your community will find you. And that there's a leap of faith in that. But Kathleen, you and Victoria took that leap in creating Lily Pub, and it's humming.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We talked about that a lot in the beginning about what kind of people did we want to attract, and you tried to figure out, okay, how do we do that? And we finally arrived at you just be authentic about who you are and what your goals are, and you just trust that the people that resonates with are your people and that they'll find you. And that's what's happened. We talked about that a lot, and we still do, just how crazy it is that, we said we didn't want snarky or mean people. We didn't want, a lot of bias or criticism. We wanted to stay away from all the negative aspects of communities and attract very different people with different values, different backgrounds, different perspectives, but in such a way that they all had something in common, that all of those other things became irrelevant. Like, your differences stay outside the door because the things that draw us close are so much more important. And that's who we found. I don't know how we did it, but it's pretty cool.
It is.
Mm-hmm. We're just grateful every day. Well, with that, that's my challenge.
Yeah. Great stuff.
So,
What better way to spend a Monday?
so Julianne, does that mean you're up next week in turn?
Sure, happy to do that. So I want to just brainstorm this idea with you while we're here.
Yeah.
So this novel, this collaborative novel, Roanoke, where we are doing Zettelkasten archaeology.
Yeah.
What if we kind of improved that book together? Kind of, I've never been a Dungeons and Dragons player, but that kind of thing where we just sort of spitball the story.
We could. Yeah.
Let's
all we can do is draft it and see.
yeah, we can think about it, and we can all say, nah. Having thought about it, the answer is nah.
I think it'd be fun. We certainly have people with background. Shelley has played Dungeons and Dragons, so if we really needed to know how that actually works, and we don't always have Stephanie, but she is very deep in Dungeons and Dragons, and could give us some guidance. For historical, Vanessa is deep into historical fiction. She could help, but maybe she has some notes on Roanoke for us. Maybe you do, Juliana. You picked this.
Oh, no, I'm just pulling it out of my what. It's just this idea of what you can tell about a person when you look at their Zettelkasten. That's completely what it is. And if there are more of them, and there's a mystery about what happened to these people, that's really all I've got. And it's also a little bit inspired by the Martian Chronicles.
Oh,
Ah. There's also
Loosely.
another kind of a true story that took place in San Diego, where there was this group of programmers who had formed a web service, web creation. They created websites for people back in the early days of that. Very, very quality programming. And they had a commune that they all shared, a big mansion on a big ground swimming pool, and everything. And they they believed that this asteroid that was coming near to the Earth was going to scoop them all up and take them away. And they all committed suicide. And it made the national news. It wasn't anywhere near as large as Jonestown. But under a slightly different thing, these people could all have Zettelkastens. And instead of them all committing suicide, everybody's frightened and wondering whether they should call the police because they're talking in that same style. The asteroid makes its near pass, and everybody, is worried for them. And they go rushing in to find out if they're all okay, and they're all gone. All their belongings are left behind, and there's Zettelkastens left behind. No sign of anybody packing anything. So then you would be stuck in a historical period.
Yeah. Was that the Hale Bop
I don't remember the name.
comet thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hale-Bopp Comet. Yeah. And the group was in San Diego.
Yeah.
I think we could spin a heck of a yarn. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing what I know
mean,
about this group.
So yeah, maybe so that we can and that feels like a recurring thing. If we enjoy it,
Yeah.
we could keep on coming back to it occasionally.
Well, one of the challenges that Jonathan is going to have when in being forced to decipher some of his grandfather's Zettelkasten to be able to save his grandfather is he's going to have trouble understanding how his grandfather makes numbers. Because his grandfather uses the 1 with the tail, and Jonathan thinks that's a 7. And
oh, nice.
So that's part of his challenge.
That's good. That's a little dramatic tension there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The serif or the sans serif?
Yeah. So deciphering somebody's handwriting would be a challenge as well, because some people's hand really hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
I've mentioned the Illuminatus trilogy before, not on these calls, but and one of the plot points, it has many plot points, but one of the first ones that you come across is there's sort of this mystery of somebody who has disappeared, and there's a couple of policemen who are trying to figure out what happened based off of these memos that are all about, the Illuminati. And they're finding these various memos and trying to put together the information and figure out what's going on. That's one of many strands in this series. And it's written very stream of consciousness. So if you're not cool with that, then it might not be for you, but I really love that series. It's a great romp through the 70s and conspiracy theory culture of the time and magic and drug culture and everything else. It's pretty wild.
Very interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
All right.
We could totally Da Vinci code the Zettelkasten. Just saying.
And I nominate Deb for composing some ditties.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Kind of the like the intros to each of the chapters is a Deb ditty.
Oh, yeah, it's a ditty. Oh, yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Very good.
All right. Well, as always, looking forward to next Monday.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Awesome.
well, thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.